politicians within parties and within ranks and files, particularly parties where they are centennial democracy, the young leadership should learn the ropes and internalize. These are the leaders for the future and for tomorrow. And therefore, there should be greater harmony. And once a party has taken a decision, whether you like it or not, it binds everybody. That is a practice. It's not reason to rebel, and not unless you don't believe in the philosophy of the party. If you don't believe in the philosophy of the party, it is always very simple. Walk out and go away. Then in terms of recalling members of parliament, I have said time and again, and I still say, we have a constitution. We have certain provisions in the constitution, but we don't have enabling legislation. That's a serious gap. We don't have enabling legislation to clarify on how a member of parliament can be recalled so that the public can know and the public can be given sufficient civic education. We don't have an enabling legislation on public participation, so that we know that these are public participation. They are not gatherings where you talk to people.
Yes.
We must have those public participation laws so that it can guide Mheshimiwa here to conduct his own public participation in legislation oversight and representation at Kileleshwa. We don't have an enabling law to enforce Article 37 of public demonstrations and picketing. It's important we do it so that we become an orderly country that promotes democracy and the rights to self-expression. We also don't have a legislation to implement referendum, because referendum should be easy and should be conducted with ease by the IBC. Matters of national interest. I even argued out in my other life that bringing a new curriculum to Kenya, we needed an extensive public participation that would have required even a referendum on it. Because we must be serious as a country. Let's not look at what benefits you as a person, what benefits you as a region, what benefits you as a political party. I think it has reached a time we argue out of self-interest, and I think that is what this media space is all about. We don't come here just to defend, but we come here to build ideas that can change this country. And so those are issues that remain to be dealt with. And very lastly, we must transform our economy so that there are decent jobs for everybody. And where there are decent jobs for the majority of the citizens, and it is possible to do it. Many economies did it. Singapore, Malaysia, the Asian tigers, the global north. Kenya has a potentiality to achieve it within 5, not more than 10 years. And that is why the president is on a transformative agenda that must be supported by all. You don't sabotage it because you think it is going to advantage the re-election of the president. Support it because it's going to transform the country. It's good for the country. None of the leaders in place are here forever. They will go. The last day of William Ruto is 10th of August, 2032. There will be a new president at that time. That is definite, for sure. And so we should know that will happen.
Fred, wait a minute. You see, there are people watching us.
They cannot go that line.
Yes. I'm being factual.
This is factual. No. I have right. No,
Fred,
one time.
Fred, I have right.
No.
An opinion cannot be a fact.
That is one time. He should know. Can he guide? He is a teacher. Can he guide the students properly?
Okay.
One term ends on 10th of August 2027.
Okay.
For record.
No, let him go home and sleep. And if he needs to
But Mwalimu
is a teacher.
An opinion.
Let's allow Bwana Sossion.
No, you cannot. No.
William Ruto will leave State House on 10th of August.
2027, yes.
That is my opinion.
2027.
Opinion.
That is 2027.
It is an
That is
opinion.
me.
It is not a fact.
That's a fact.
It is Bwana Alai's turn now.
Thank you so much. I think on the matters of party discipline, I will leave it at that. That, ODM has its own mechanism. The leadership has spoken, the members have spoken, and we remain committed to the broad-based arrangement. On recall, I think it's very unfair for IEBC first to try to align itself with the MPs and the senators and ignore all other represented leaders elected. You know, there's a process of impeaching the governors. There's a process for impeaching the president. It cannot be that you can impeach the governor, you can impeach the president, you can remove the MCAs through the County Government Act, I think Article 27 to 29. There's no constitutional provision for that, but you can still recall the MCAs. But the Election Act, which was invalidated through the petition of the Katiba Institute, was supposed to be amended. And it has not gone beyond the second reading because the MPs and the senators are stalling it. It's not fair to do that to the citizens. It's only fair, just like the issue of pension. We've had a member from Mihango, Honorable Kados. He has served as a politician since 1997. This person has been elected faithfully by the people. He was in politics before President William Ruto. So how do you leave that member to go home tomorrow without pension while the MPs, the senators, and all these elected leaders have pension to go home? I think it's not fair because, you know, sometimes public service and elected leadership is also part of a scheme of service, and we have to take it into account. But Fred, lastly,
going to court.
Fred, you know, and I think that Wamunyoro would consider some of these issues. Instead of trying to fight William Ruto all the time, they should be pro-people. The other thing, the last thing which I have to speak before leaving here, Fred, is the issue of the employment dispute between the countries. And you know, the people don't realize it much, but what Tanzania is trying to do, Kenya should have done earlier. I can tell you for a fact that today, most of the electricians, most of the masons, most of the plumbers, most of the hawkers of mandazis, chai, and whatever, in the city of Nairobi, 99% of them are not Kenyans. I had a very nasty fight. I saw pictures of a very nasty fight in Githunguri, where some of the people who are guarding a home, some of the people who are working at a home were stabbed by one of the guards, who was a former child soldier in Burundi. So how these people get to this country? Somebody gets from Burundi or DRC into Kenya today, running from war, probably was a child soldier of M23, and becomes a hawker on Uhuru Highway. When he has a small dispute, because the country has come from does not have proper due process, or there's a breakdown in law and order, then you let them come and start doing business within the Nairobi. I think is a waiting tragedy to happen. And if we don't put in proper controls, because this is an immigration issue, the national government will tell us.
But and the issue is, and sorry to cut you short, the issue is that we are part of the EAC community. And,
yes.
Opening our borders is part of the agreement, of the treaty.
Yes.
Then wouldn't we, by doing what you suggest, be going back on the same, just like Tanzania have done, and should that be the way to go?
No, what I propose that we do is that we have to vet. If we are vetting Kenyans who are citizens of this country before we give them employment, how are we having foreigners getting employment, earning a living in Kenya? You saw the issue which, you know, was in the headlines of all the newspapers, the media outlets in Kenya sometimes back, the issue of the hawker who was claimed to have been assaulted by city askaris, the hawker who was selling, I think, mandazi and it was poured out. It was not that. When it was investigated, we found that first this was a hawker from Burundi, and they have developed a tendency that if they are approached by the enforcement team, they'll start throwing tantrums and they'll pour their own, merchandise. And then they'll earn public sympathy. And then there'll be an uproar against the enforcement officers. And then there'll be a breakdown in law and order. I think we have to vet, not only from the immigration team, but the whole security structure needs to vet these people so that, and we need...
Actually, Fred,
some allow me now, I'll have to give
have IDs. No, Fred, some of them have IDs. When I went stop by and bought something from one of them, then the name came Burundian. Then I asked them, how do you survive here? Yeah, I said, do you have IDs? Yeah, me, I don't have, but some of my colleagues have.
Isn't that what we're aspiring to?
No, Kenyan IDs, Burundians, Kenyan IDs. Let me tell you. But now the problem is Fred, I'm an expert on delivery. I believe in action. We have Alai here. who has access to Raila Odinga, who has access to State House. And we are still here crying. What is all this we are talking about BBG? Because surely you come here crying like it's not the time Alai was in opposition. Yes, like he told Alai called to be in State House to become the president. But this thing, come on, let's not stop this show. Let's not come here to come and crying.
Do you think Kenya should
what
adopt
would we
those
do?
protectionist ideas like Tanzania has?
I believe and think that regional integration is very important, even for our economy to thrive. But it should not differentiate our Kenyan people. We should not benefit other nations at the expense of our people. Why do I say this? If the other foreigners, allow me to use that word, are coming to Kenya to benefit, where Kenyans themselves are not benefiting, then we are not doing regional integration. We are sacrificing what we have for the benefit of others. And this is my last point that I want to make. If we cannot continue growing the business in Kenya, but we are importing what we are calling cheap labor, just because they will be around the streets and they will pay our county government some few shillings here and there, we are killing our industry. For example, this news that we have imported without tax rice, when we have farmers in Mwea stocking up and piling up their harvest in Mwea, yet we are importing rice. We are not growing our economy. We are killing our own farmers. And that is why now you see this kind of ripple effect of why do we have Burundians here? Why do we have South Sudanese here? Whatever Suluhu is doing in Tanzania is saying whatever that can be done by Tanzanians, let it be done by Tanzanians. We should also do the same. What Kenyans can do, we do not need to pay to get services from other countries.
Yes.
No, I think that is working backwards from the objective of East African community. Mm-hmm. There are protocols on labor mobility. It is there. And the free market economy, it is also there. The aspiration is to have one, not just economic federation, but political federation. I've been at the space of teachers, and we've noted this mobility of teachers to the different parts of the federation. And in fact, the civil service of Rwanda is basically manned by many professional Kenyans. And the intra-African trade is about opening up boundaries, free movements of goods and services, and free movement of people. So if we talk about opening borders, you cannot stop people from moving. The only thing is, let us have strict protocols in place that can allow people to do what they want to do. There is an aspect of economic freedom, competition we should not fear. I found a Congolese hawker in Bomet hawking electrical items. And in a free market is a willing buyer, willing seller. I think we should accept to live within that particular space, because a bigger economy is good for all of us, and it's good for the human population. It is what Europe has done. If you want to get to Schengen countries, you just get one visa, and you will be in many countries. If you want to fly all over Europe, you can do at the lowest cost. Let us not insist on being slaves and being shackled to the original demarcation and economic weakness and abyss of the colonial masters. We must march forward with both political and economic integration and allow free labor mobility. The only thing that needs to be done is for governments to agree on protocols, who does what, which citizen should be allowed to do what, and Kenya should just remain an open country. The only thing we need to do as a country is to work on our economic systems and transformation to create more opportunities for our own citizens.
Fred,
but cherry picking, cherry picking and waking up titanically to react to an item that already exists even within the protocols is not right. And I think what Suluhu is doing is not right. It is wrong, and Kenya should not adopt what Suluhu is doing. We must lead the region and the sub-Saharan region of Africa to integrate economically and allow free movement of goods and services.
Dr. Mbae.
Now, on that one we agree about, so that we don't lose our viewers. We are saying this. I am a proponent of expanding markets, right? Yeah. All the way from the issues of international trade. Market of East Africa, Africa, ESFTA, all the way to the world. So what Suluhu is doing is reactionary. Because of the issues of Boniface Mwangi, the trolling by Kenyans, you know? I don't think it's emotional, sorry to say, and we are hoping that she will decide what she did, because that's not nice. Kenyans should work everywhere. I have no problem buying sugarcane from a Burundian myself. I have no problem, because anybody else should come and do it. A Kenyan should be able to, the guy's industrious, buying groundnuts. The only problem we have, Fred, is when a Burundian gets a Kenyan national ID, when we have a government. We don't want to overthink that all these issues of foreigners getting IDs, Somalis getting IDs, has a link to 2027 elections. We just don't want to. we are hoping not to overthink. But honestly, I think...
digressing from the discussion.
I mean, no, I'm just... no. By the way, Fred, we are saying here, we don't want to let anything go. Between now and 2027, anything we see, we must look at it with a microscope, because we are not sure about what is going to come. The other day, refugees, 800,000 of them, they are going to be made Kenyans. Okay? The other story about all these kind of things. Please, we want to know from this government how many Burundians, South Sudanese, have Kenyan, instead of work permits, have Kenyan IDs. That's where the whole story is.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Dr. Peter Mbae, Secretary Planning and Economic Affairs at the DCP. Mwalimu Wilson Sossion, who served as SG of KNUT and also as a member of the National Assembly. Kimone, who is a Director of Public Participation in Nyandarua County. And Robert Alai, MC Kileleshwa Ward. Asanteni sana for your very well considered opinions on the issues we've discussed. Of course, the big one this morning, and I think people daily put it aptly,